Hey, this is Antonio. Welcome back to my channel, and we're gonna have some fighting words. I know I've been away for a while, but I'm back with some exciting news. Before we go any further, please like and subscribe. So let's just jump right into it. Errol Spence is out against his bout with Manny Pacquiao. Ugas is in. Errol is out, Ugas is in. Errol is out with a scratch or tear on his left eye, his retina. So he has to have surgery. So unfortunately, he won't be able to face Manny Pacquiao, which is a bummer for you and myself as well. I mean, I'm just as much a fan as you are. I've been waiting to see this. We've been building this thing up. I've already done 2 fight breakdowns. Technically, for both of them, actually, I think I've done like 3 or 4 fight breakdowns. But as things may happen, 2021 is just turning out to be a crazy kind of year. I mean, we get like a postponed fight against Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury. We're also getting this weird kind of thing going on with Teofimo Lopez and George Kambosos. So, and here we are again, with Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence. It's unfortunate, especially everything that Errol has been through with his car accident and his comeback fight, which was a great comeback fight when he fought Danny Garcia, only to get to this point and to look in tremendous shape in fight camp. I mean, he looks lean, mean, and he looks big, like he's been lifting some weights or something like that. I know it's got to be hard on him, to put your body through so much wear and tear and strain and just get your mind in that mental place and then to have it kind of taken away from you. But from my understanding, he will be facing the winner of the two. So that's said about Errol. Well, what's left is Manny Pacquiao. So what does this do for Manny Pacquiao? Well, Manny Pacquiao has been training for a particular fighter thus far, and now he's going to have to change everything. I mean, it's a plus for Manny that he doesn't have to change. Well, he does have to change a lot in terms of tactics, but he still has the same body type, basically. You have a tall, muscular welterweight, so who's big for the weight, to be honest with you. So I'm pretty sure nothing is going to change in terms of Manny Pacquiao's sparring partners, but the tactics are going to change. You went from fighting a rough, tough Texan to now fighting somebody who was trained in a Cuban school of boxing, who knows how to elude punches and shots. So it's going to be a little different. I will be making a fight breakdown for Yordenis Ugas, and I'm going to remake a fight breakdown for Manny Pacquiao and what would be his key to success for Ugas. Because like I said, you're dealing with a totally different animal. And for all of you who say, Manny Pacquiao is just going to walk through Ugas, just pump the brakes a little bit right there. I don't necessarily know if he's just going to walk through him. Looking at it the way I'm looking at it, I kind of see Manny Pacquiao beating Ugas. But Ugas is very strong. He's very big. Although he was trained in a Cuban school of boxing, Ugas has a really American way of fighting. He's very stationary to be a Cuban fighter. So it's going to be it's still going to be an interesting matchup. Just no matter how you put it, it's going to be an interesting matchup. But, things are going to change. Manny Pacquiao is going to have to, figure some things out. One of my biggest concerns for Manny was that he would not necessarily lose his zeal for the fight, but you're going up against a guy who's undefeated. He's already unified a few titles. Everybody's looking at him like he's the next big thing in boxing. So Manny Pacquiao's focus and his determination and his dedication to this fight, the way I'm looking at it, it's easy to say that it meant more to him to fight Errol Spence as opposed to Ugas. So as much as it's killing Errol Spence to not be fighting Manny Pacquiao, I'm truly thinking it's killing Manny Pacquiao just as much not to fight Errol Spence and now to be left with Ugas. Because again, it wasn't like this was your planned opponent. He's a default. He's option 2 or plan 2. Still a good plan, not knocking Ugas or anything like that. Still a good plan. I think he and Manny Pacquiao will put on a good show, but he's not Errol Spence. He's not undefeated. He's not a unified champion. He's none of these things. Nobody's really figured out the Errol Spence puzzle, and Manny was going to try to figure that out. Ugas is not the same caliber of opponent. Again, you know me. I'm a straight shooter, and I gotta call a spade a spade. He's not the same caliber of opponent, but he is still very, very dangerous, and he knows the ring. He understands the sweet science. So it's still going to be interesting. I think this might be a little bit more of a tactical war, because just judging by the time frame that they have left to meet each other. I mean, they're talking about December, which is enough time to get prepared for somebody. But what I would say is this: there's another factor for Manny Pacquiao. So when you put on his age, and then you put on the last time he was in the ring, he had a war with Keith Thurman, and then you put on he had a year off, and now he's put himself through a grueling another training camp for what he might even conceive might be one of his hardest, or possibly to be his hardest fight yet. Because again, he's only, he's getting older. But my worry and my concern is ring rust. It's a real thing, because now, he's going longer without fighting. He's gone longer without fighting. We just had this worldwide event, and then we go all through this training camp, and now he's going to have to technically go through another training camp. I'm worried about ring rust. But one other thing that's in the back of my mind would be that he's overtraining. Because you're technically going through 2 fight camps back to back. Like, there's not going to be a pause. I mean, maybe he'll probably take a week off or something like that, but that's not really going to be conducive or really do anything in terms of his body just being acclimated and calming down for we're talking about a very brief moment. You can definitely overtrain and overwork yourself. And there have been many fighters who've gone into the ring and, they were just overworked. It wasn't necessarily that their opponent beat them. It was that they beat themselves in training camp. They've had maybe too much sparring or too much running or whatever the case may be. Just now, and you take that and you put that into context, he literally has 2 fight camps back to back. He spent all his time and all his, just everything focused on this one guy. Now he has to reconfigure himself and say, all right, now it's this guy. So everything that I've been focused on over here is now focused over here. But then you look at that time that he's been training, the time that he's put in. It's a long time. It's a long time for a younger guy, nonetheless, a guy in his 40s, to just say, all right, well, let's just do another training camp. Let's do all this film study all over again. So do I think that he can do it? Absolutely, I think he can do it. I think he's not only a champion here, but I think he's a champion here as well. So yes, I think he can do it. But when you listen, we have to put all these factors on the table if we are to properly assess what will be the outcome. The best we can assess what will be the outcome, since it hasn't happened yet. But we have to put all these things on the table. Ugas is going to come in super fresh and super clean, because he hasn't been training like that hard. I follow him on Instagram, so he's always in shape and he's always training. But he hasn't been training for the type of caliber as a Manny Pacquiao, so that's what sets it apart. Now, in terms of Ugas, he has a chance to go against a legend. What if he beats Manny Pacquiao? So many things are going to be just thrown up in the air if Ugas beats Manny Pacquiao. Well, let's just say, okay, Ugas beats Manny Pacquiao. Well, now Ugas will face, I guess, Errol Spence, which is not what anybody wanted to see originally, which would also offset Errol Spence seeing Terrence Crawford anytime, any sooner, or anything like that. That's going to offset that. What my thoughts were, what they were trying to do with this fight, if Manny Pacquiao were to beat Errol Spence, it was to set up another fight with Floyd Mayweather, which would offset that as well. So it's not like, let's just say Manny beats Ugas. That's not going to make Floyd say, all right, now's the perfect time for me and Manny to have our second fight. because Manny's on top of the world. Manny Pacquiao's not going to be on top of the world if he fights Ugas and he beats Ugas. He's not going to be on top of the world. He would only be on top of the world if he beats Errol Spence, an undefeated unified champion. That's how he's going to be on top of the world. Now, what if Ugas wins? Well, Floyd, I guess he'll be sitting somewhere twiddling his thumbs, because that wasn't in the plans. And we all know it's boxing. 4 pounds of pressure, anybody can go. So you can't really predict those things. Ugas is, again, very big for the division. So while all this is happening, you got Errol Spence over here on the sidelines, because first, yeah, it's a surgery, but then he's going to have to train and do everything all over again. Everything's going to get pushed back, basically. Everything gets pushed back. So let's go back around the circle again. I just want you to see how many scenarios can come from this. Pac-Man beats Ugas. Pac-Man still has to wait for Errol Spence to become 100% for those two to have their clash. Now we all have to cross our twist our thumbs and do all this other stuff, hoping that he wins. Well, I'm pretty sure that's what Floyd is doing, because he's going to get probably another 100 million, maybe even 300 million if they do a rematch. So Floyd is going to be over here waiting patiently, twiddling his thumbs now. This whole thing is just a mess. It's just a mess. But as you can see, there's a lot of scenarios that can play from this. I will be doing another fight breakdown because, the fight breakdown for Errol Spence from Manny, that's not going to do anything for Ugas. Ugas is a completely different fighter than Errol Spence. The only thing that they have in common is that they're big for the division. They're pretty tall for the division. And they're really physical fighters. But that's about it. In terms of technique and, ways about doing their business in the ring, they're not that similar. Not at all. So I'm definitely going to have to do another fight breakdown. I look forward to it, and I hope you do as well. But you tell me what you think down below. And as always, please like and subscribe.